Welcome to the MotUS Edge, where we celebrate business, primarily youth sports facility management, leadership, and motivation. Co-hosted by Stacy Rowe, Cole Stott, Kevin Brubaker, and Casey Jones. We are here to fill your cup with knowledge, laughter, affirmations, and comfort knowing that you're not alone. You can and will succeed with the MotUS Edge.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the MotUS Edge, where we talk about leadership, motivation, and all things cheer and dance biz. It is a special day because we have the whole gang here today.
Ooh,
whoop, whoop.
It's been a minute.
All right. It has been a minute. Today we are going
what Casey looked like.
Yeah. I realized Kevin's a UFC fighter.
Yes. Today we're going to unpack the lessons we've learned as gym owners and entrepreneurs. So it should be a pretty fun chat today, gang.
Yeah, as Kevin looks beat up over there. So the lesson that Kevin learned is not to mess with Cole. I mean, you know, Cole got the better of him in a fight there.
That's funny.
Like.
Yeah,
man, what happened to you, Kevin? You're a little beat up there.
Oh my goodness, y'all! Lesson learned. My wife's been telling me for years to not get on the roof to do our Christmas lights, and I know it's late. You know, when you travel every weekend, I mean, every cheerleading person understands that this time of year you just go from January through April, and so I finally had a weekend off and I climbed up on the roof to take my lights down, did the same thing I've always done. And I literally fell off my roof, rolled, smashed my face into the bushes. Didn't need stitch here, but it's glued shut from the hospital. But yeah, I literally fell about 30 feet, tumbled down the side of my roof, really steep, and fell. And I'm okay. Didn't break anything. God was smiling on me. I could have broken a leg, broken an arm,
that could have been
my
bad.
neck. It could have been really bad. I'm very, very lucky, and I appreciate angels smiling on me. So I can say, you know, it's a classic example of doing things the same way always, and we always say, especially men, oh, that'll never happen to me. And so, like, going along the edge of the roof, taking the lights off the gutter, no fear, no problem, literally. And so when I was going from one ledge to the other, I misplaced my step and a really steep part, which you can't walk on. And once I started falling, I literally went from the top peak to the ground in less than 2 seconds. It happened so fast. And I'm just thankful I'm okay, but my face is smashed up. So I apologize for my
So what lesson did you learn, Kevin? What lesson did you learn?
My wife was right again. And so I'm never doing lights anymore. And the problem is I'm having to pay someone to come take the lights down because I can't get up there to do it. So, you know,
he left out the part that his wife was actually still up on the roof with her hands on her hips with a smile on his face, her face, you know. He may not have been pushed.
Maybe I'll get him next time.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lesson learned in your personal life. Hard lessons learned in our business life. I think I'll start it off, Stacy, if you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
But I feel like, if you got 9 lives in your personal life, maybe you have 20 to 25 lives in your business life. I feel like you learn more from your mistakes than you do from your wins. And we've all got a lot of mistakes, you know, and have been through a lot. So one of my biggest mistakes is, so I think everybody knows, or I don't know everyone listening to this, but is, I founded OneUp back in 2003, which has turned into a great big, I think 900 plus team event this year in Nashville, Tennessee. But when we first started, we were at the old convention center beneath the Renaissance. It was great. We were there for, I think, the first 3 years. Then we stopped doing it for a couple years, and we actually tried to do 6 different events. I don't know if you guys remember this. We did 6 different events. We were in Destin, we were in Atlanta, just kind of spread out across the country, and made a poor choice of leaving Nashville for a couple years, but then started it back up, and we're back in the old convention center underneath the Renaissance right there by Broadway, did it there for 2 years, and they were building the Music City Center for the people who have not been to Nashville. It's a beautiful, beautiful venue. So we signed a contract for the first 3 years that they were open, and we're lucky enough to be in there. It was awesome. Had the brand new Omni Hotel. They didn't love cheerleaders because of all the glitter and all the hairspray and just the noise, to be honest with you. But, we fought through that and had an opportunity. They said, this is going great. After the first year, you want to do it? We'll do a 10-year extension for $75,000 a year. So we said no, waited it out, came back to them literally less than a year later and said, hey, we're ready to do that one. I don't know if we can do 10 years, we'll sign a multi-year contract. The price went from $75,000 total for the whole venue. So $25,000 per hall to $200,000 per hall, $600,000 per venue. So it went from $75,000 to $600,000 literally in less than a year.
Missed out on that deal.
I've always kicked myself. Obviously now, we've sold that event to Varsity, and we don't own it anymore anyway. But that could have been a good one, because I fully believe with Cheer Expo, which is where our World's Bid event is now, is once we can get in a bigger, better venue, which we are in a great spot next year. We're back at the Gaylord, but our ultimate kind of, hope is to be in the Music City Center. We can get in there. I think it'll be our first 1,000-team event that we have. So, fingers crossed. But that was a big one. I wish if I hadn't have done that way back then, I don't know how things would have worked out. Maybe they'd still love us and they'd let Cheer Expo get in there. So anyway, that was a big mistake.
It's so hard to figure out when to be aggressive and not aggressive. And then, you fast forward 10 years and because I'm sure, heck, longer than 10 years, but I'm sure at one time, gosh, $75,000 for 10 years, and that seems so expensive. And now it's $100,000 to get in any convention center, not even a good one. So,
right.
And that's a great one. Yeah. So I don't know. A thing that pops up to me often is about 13 years ago, we had a really big tryout at the gym. And it was so big that we had unexpected numbers. And we're like, goodness gracious, we do not have room for these kids. So what are we going to do? So I'm scrambling around. I'm looking for a spot, and I found this great building that used to be a gymnastics center. It was just what we needed. It had AC. It had all the things. And I actually knew the owner of the building. We had shared some kids over the years. She was a great person. She had sold her gymnastics business, and they had built a new building across the street, and worked out perfect for us to go in there and lease that building. And she gave us a great deal. And then, I don't know, after about, I think, 2 or 3 years, she said, my husband and I, we want to retire and move to Colorado. Her kids had moved out west, so she wanted to retire and move out there with them. And she was like, would you like to buy this building? We'll actually own or finance. And once again, they were going to own or finance part of it, but I would have had to come up with a large sum of money. This building was about $1 million at the time. And I started looking into it. I was definitely interested. But it didn't have a sprinkler system in it. And I was concerned with that. So, I did some research, and it was like, if the ownership changed, then I was probably going to be required by the city to add sprinkler system to it. So, I called a company to get a quote on that, and it was about $50,000 for the sprinkler system. And I was just, holy smokes, $50,000. So if I buy this building, I may instantly have to spend $50,000 in there. So I passed on it. And, I am still in that building, and someone else owns it, and it still doesn't have a sprinkler system. And if I were to buy that building today, it would be about $2.5 million. But even then, he won't sell it because there is nothing else like it in the area. And, and I've paid that $1 million plus that $50,000 over and over a couple times now with rent. So, I'm a little disappointed in myself that I passed on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's if all of us or any of us had a crystal ball, wow, and like you were starting to say, Casey, it's so hard. It's educated guesses. And I don't care who you are or what type of business you're in. Everybody is making an educated guess. And that's really, to me, what it is. Some people are better at guessing than others, but there's no sure thing out there, especially in the business world.
Well, we have our current gym with Charlotte All-Stars. We've been in the same building for 36 years. And we had the opportunity to buy the building, I think 14, 15 years ago. And it was like $1.25 million or something. We're like, oh man, that's just out of our price range. The building was old. There's poles everywhere. When we've been there, we made it work, but we just thought the building was not worth it. And I had, my uncle who did commercial real estate said, this is not a good deal. You're going to have to put so much money into the building. And I regret that decision 13 years later. I wish we would have bought the building. Now it's worth, $3 million. It sits in a great piece of property. And so now, retrospect, you guys know we're moving to a temporary space for a year. We're building a new building now for the future. So we did buy a piece of land a couple miles down the road. And so it's like, but I would have much rather stayed where I was. It was just a primo piece of property on a corner in Matthews. And, but I didn't know.
I bet that new building's not $1 million.
Yeah, it's not. It's gonna be beautiful. We'll have a grand opening, and Cole and Stacy, you guys are welcome to come and see it. So it's gonna be awesome. So
that's what
I think. I think my lesson learned, it's multi-layered, I guess, but it's also having to do with the building. So I think what we're telling everybody is that when it comes to real estate and buildings, we're not really your go-to here, it sounds like. But I was in my gym in Clayton, North Carolina, and we were trying to move to a larger facility. We were packed out at the seams, and I found a building that we were going to move into, and really got excited, got the customers excited. We got everybody hyped up about this new building. And it ended up not working out. So twofold. One is don't tell your customers that you're moving into a new building until it's for sure that you're moving into a new building, because what ultimately ended up happening is it backfired. We ended up not moving into that building. It took a really long time to try to find another building, and it really kind of made the customers feel like all of a sudden we didn't want to invest in our business, and we needed more space. They knew we needed more space. Everybody knew we needed more space, and all of a sudden now we weren't moving into this new space. And so we ended up actually kind of losing customers, which sucked, unfortunately. But the reason why we didn't move into that new facility was because it was a warehouse. And obviously, we all know that when you're moving into warehouse space, I mean, Casey, you talk about your Grove heaters all the time. Warehouse doesn't always necessarily come with an HVAC system, which is not necessarily a big deal. Ideally, you want to find one that already has it because it's obviously cheaper. But it's somewhat normal to expect that it won't have an HVAC unit and that you're going to have to add some HVAC to the building. Okay, cool, great. What I was not prepared for is that the building was not wired. It did not have enough electrical, processing, I don't know if that's the right word, to handle the HVAC unit. Yeah. So it had to have, it needed $500,000 worth of work that we were going to have to pay for just to rent the building. And it just turned out to be not a viable building because of that, which none of us, I feel like, ever really thought to ask, does it have what it needs to add the HVAC? I've been in those situations before where we've had to add it and it's fine. In this case, it wasn't, and never knew to ask. So now I know. And we had another building because of that lesson learned. We had another building down the road where I asked that question and it was not capable, and we were able to quickly move on and not make the same mistake twice. So yay for mistakes that sucked the first time around.
That's a great thing, because so many of us, especially when we're first starting out, we don't understand all of these things. I'm not an electrician. I don't understand that. But that exact same thing happened to me. And at Stingrays, we went a long, long time with no AC, because I knew that, hey, the air condition is going to cost $200,000, but we're going to have to spend $100,000 to pull more power to the building and add another panel. And, so your $200,000 AC, which is super expensive, just, add 50% to that just to be able to power it up. So, and those are things if you don't know, those are things that can get you. I've also, I remember one time we were expanding, we were opening a gym in Cartersville, Georgia, and I found this great building at a great at a great price, and we were set to go. The equipment was coming in, it was being delivered, all of that. And then lo and behold, the zoning wasn't correct. And by not correct, basically the city there was like, hey, we don't have cheerleading listed. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Down in Marietta, they just put me under school or educational or whatever. And
assembly,
like, well,
usually.
Up here in Cartersville, we don't do that. Like, you need to list the, cheerleading instruction, and it'll have to go before city council. And I had to run an ad in the paper, and it had to go, go before the little hearing and everything. Anyway, long and short of it is, I had a truckload of equipment that had to sit there for a little over 6 weeks while I ran this ad and had this thing go through. And luckily it went through and they approved it. But imagine if they hadn't, because during that time I'd already signed a lease, and wow. I was paying for the building already because I just didn't know, and the landlord was nice. He was like, hey, you signed the lease. Sorry, you got to pay for it. So luckily it cost us 6 weeks, but that could have cost us everything. Imagine if city council, you know what, we don't want cheerleading in Cartersville. So
it could have been Stingray's karate. Who knows?
Yeah, correct.
So I've got one more. I don't know. I think Casey and Kevin probably don't know this. So this might be new information. Stacy's probably heard this story before. So when I was at UT, there was a pretty well-known quarterback that was playing quarterback named Peyton Manning. And then Bill Bartholomew was the starting fullback for that whole time. Johnny Long was the head strength and conditioning coach. He was from LSU, had just moved to Knoxville, I think my second year. He lived right beside me in college, so we became pretty good friends. He'd hang out with us a lot. I feel like he did like us, but he liked all the girls. Were kind of over at our apartment a lot for parties or whatnot through college. So Johnny and I became really close. Will, after he graduated, the year after, he founded D1, which I think everyone's familiar with D1. He's got like 50 locations now. Peyton gave him the seed money to kind of start it, and Johnny and Will were partners in that. So at the very beginning, there was an opportunity, to do cheer in the D1 facilities. They talked to us. For whatever reason, we decided not to do it. We talked for probably, the first 5-6 years, like really we should do facilities together. Stacy and I actually talked about it again like 4 years ago, almost 20 years later. But one of the things that came up is where D1's headquartered is in Franklin, Tennessee, where we also had a premier gym. So we were looking at the same property. It's right by the Galleria Mall. It was 9 acres of land that was an old go-kart complex right off the interstate in Franklin. And if people are familiar with Franklin, it's a very, very, very wealthy community. So we didn't do it. Will did do it. And it's one of the real estate stories. I think it was around $2 million. It's probably worth, honestly, $25-30 million today. It is prime real estate right in the middle of Franklin. So again, just the real estate misses. So I guess kind of the moral of the story for everybody is if you've got a chance to buy your own building and can do it without overextending yourself, then probably go ahead and pull the trigger. It is
never going to get cheaper.
Yeah, everyone likes to talk about their misses and their mistake. They don't. People don't like to tell stories that, oh well, I bought this building and I paid whatever, $1 million for it, and now it's only worth $600,000. But there are, you remember those misses, and if you can do it, go ahead. It's better to own than pay rent every month.
I mean, I can tell one of those stories right quick if you want, Cole. So actually that same gym in Cartersville, it bounced around a little bit, and I actually sold the gym to a doctor invested in it with one of the guys that was who ran the gym for me, and they built a building. And really nice building. They built it from scratch, brand new, and they may have overextended themselves a little bit. So the doctor and I became friends, and I was doing some consulting for him, and I came back in and took the business back over, and he had let it go back to the bank. So this was when real estate dipped. So anyway, this is a 15,000 square foot building in Cartersville, Georgia. And I was leasing from the bank, and one day I was like, you know what? I'm just going to call these guys. I know banks don't really like to own buildings, and I'm just going to, throw out a number. And I called them up, and I'm like, hey, guys, I'd really like to buy this building. Would you just take $350 for it? and they hem-hawed around a little bit, and then they came back, and they were like, absolutely, we will not, but we'll take $450. And I'm like, I was able to jump on that and capitalize on that. And that building's worth probably 3 times that now because, the bank didn't want it. They didn't want to hold on to it.
Wow.
And, that turned out to be a great story. And we kept the gym going and kind of revitalized it. And, but the real estate is a big piece of it. And I think, to me personally, I know we're talking a lot about real estate today. I think that's one of the biggest challenges of the gym business today because leases are expensive, purchasing is expensive, all of those things. And here's the thing, guys, it's not going to go down. Historically, like I said, it may level off, but it's not going to go backwards. That doesn't mean you can't find a deal here or now, but it's kind of like a buddy of mine told me, the cheapest taxes you're ever going to pay are today. The cheapest land you're ever going to buy is today. So like Cole said, if you can afford it and you can make that investment, it's definitely something to look into because, the reality is in the cheerleading business and many businesses, we're a service business. And those can earn you a good living, but they're often difficult to sell because you are the service provider. So unless you're going to run it, it's hard to sell those kinds of businesses. And we don't typically have people locked into long-term contracts. So if you want to truly build some wealth and something for your family, then it may often come in the form of, the assets that you own. And that can be the properties that you're using. Because the reality is you're going to cover that note plus some in rent.
Yep.
Yeah, and maybe everybody's figured out what not to do through our stories today.
Exactly. We got
anybody have a
non-building
a week? Yeah, anybody have a
non-building
lesson?
I was thinking, beyond real estate. I know we've all made mistakes as gym owners, and one of the things for me, we're finishing up season 36 of Charlotte All-Stars and been around for a long time, and I've thought about the different mistakes I've made with staff and hiring the wrong staff or feeling like I need this staff person or feeling pressure because I wanted this staff person or having staff that grow up in your gym that have, been with you and, you probably need to let them go, but you love them personally or they do a great job at this, but not as good as this. And so I just think it's really important to look at what your staff culture is and what those vibes look like and what, how they're meshing and how they're getting along. And so, finding young staff that want to work and want to help your business be successful and want to help grow it and want to do the things, all the things, in our case, we need you to teach classes and camps and all-star teams. And literally there's so much variety of things at our gym. You just can't show up and want to teach an elite team and have a full-time job. It doesn't work like that. You got to have some office hours and you got to be able to do some other things. And I think sometimes my heart has judged what I should do for staff instead of what my mind tells me I really should do. And I've made some mistakes over the years. I love the staff we have now. And, but just over 36 years, I feel like, I've given advice to other gym owners about letting staff go. You already know the reason, and so, but I haven't done that same thing for myself sometimes. And so letting my heart,
don't let your emotions make your decisions, I think is what you're trying to say.
Thank you. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, that's exactly it. So, but maybe I'm the only one. Maybe y'all
that's tough. I do that same thing.
I think that's a very, very common thing to do. And I feel like I've said this on the show before, but I personally, have tried to teach our managers at Premier that when you're faced with those difficult decisions, oftentimes you're focused on the emotion of what the immediate conversation in front of you is going to feel like. But what you really need to be thinking about is all of the other people it's negatively impacting if you don't have the conversation. And once you can like switch your focus to that, it makes it a lot easier to do what's right in front of you and deal with the immediate, emotion that's going to, come with that conversation or whatever, which is not, none of that's easy to do, but that's what I've always tried to teach them, because at the end of the day, you are, typically if you have a bad apple parent or a bad apple coach or a bad apple athlete or whatever, and maybe they're not a bad apple at all, but they just go against your culture that they got to weed them out. You're hurting everybody else.
Yeah.
By not
advice
doing
I'd give, unfortunately, we've had to let a few people go over the years. We've had a lot of really, really great people. We've had a few people that aren't so great, and a few people that Stacy just said aren't a good fit for our culture. But what I have learned over the years is just be honest and be direct. They're hard conversations, but the person that you're talking to, they actually appreciate that. They may be upset in the moment, but I can't tell you how many times, it's happened where they come back later and it's like, yeah, I really needed to hear that. It really was a wake up call, and it really pushed me to do this next step, or whatever. But we
did a podcast with an author who wrote a book about that. How to be a leader without being a jackass, and that's what he talked about. It's about being honest with people and preparing them for the next thing. So
yeah.
Yeah,
right,
it's
Casey,
tough though, Kevin. I was just going to say I get into the emotional piece as well. But to Cole's point, there's so many people that maybe I decided or we decided, but it didn't work out over the years. But then they come back years later, and there's a respect, and we respect one another, and we're friendly. And oftentimes they say, "Hey, that was a thing that helped me find that next thing." And that's where I've had to change my mindset with employees. Are we making them better for the next thing? And if we allow them to do things incorrectly, or we don't hold them accountable for things like that, then we're not setting them up for the next job. And I used to want to, we want to lock this person in and they're going to be here forever. And oftentimes that is our goal, but that's often not the reality. So are we setting them up to make them better? So I think if you do that, if your intentions are always that I want to create an environment that grows our employees, and unfortunately it may grow them so much that they outgrow our business and move on to another one. But if you do that, you're going to have great employees. Right. So
absolutely
agree.
You can't go wrong.
Agree.
Time for my dad joke?
Yeah. What you got?
Right. I like this one. It reminds me of one of my favorite dumb movies. But what do you call a pile of cats? What do you call a pile of cats?
Let's see if Kevin can get it.
A hot mess.
He loves the cats.
I do.
Did you say a hot mess, Cole? I agree with that. A hot mess.
I only have one, and she's awesome. Yeah. I don't know.
A meowton.
Nice. I love how you put the meow.
Meowton. Which the movie I was referring to is Super Troopers. Have y'all seen Super Troopers?
Oh, yeah.
When he pulls up, they would pull people over and have to use the word meow. What are you doing, right? Meow.
I don't think I've ever seen that movie.
I don't think I've seen it.
Oh, it is so you will lose a couple brain cells by watching it.
Yeah. It's so dumb, but it's hilarious.
I don't have many left to spare, to be honest with you.
But if nothing, funny. You know what? I'll find that scene from YouTube on YouTube and send to you guys. It's pretty funny.
Okay.
Make sure send us your favorite dad jokes. We love to share other people's. You can email those to Stacy at STACY or DM us. Stacy at Join MotUS, or DM us on our social media at Join MotUS. So we're going to take a second to tell you about the award-winning book written by Miss Stacy Rowe, The Pioneers of All-Star Cheer.
Pioneers of All-Star Cheer takes you on a sweeping journey from the first chance of 1898 to the electric high-stakes world we know today. With insider accounts, rich detail, and intimate pioneer profiles, this book pulls back the curtain on the evolution of creativity, community, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. The Pioneers of All-Star Cheer is available now on Amazon and online anywhere books are sold. Learn more at srfabrico.com. That's srfabrico.com.
All right. I think it's time for some rapid fire questions. I got some questions for you guys. So let's see. We'll go
right.
Cole,
Casey
Stacy,
and Cole,
Kevin.
they're not used to the questions. They haven't been here in a while.
Oh,
The order is Cole, Stacy, Kevin.
Okay.
All right.
Cole, Stacy, Kevin.
All right,
What's
here
your
we go.
go-to karaoke song?
it's a tough one. I think Friends in Low Places, because it's the only one I know the words to.
Like it.
I would have to say Baby Got Back or Ice Ice Baby. Stop, collaborate, and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Something. Okay, I'm just
like
kidding.
it.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I have a deep voice. Anything Johnny Cash. So Walk the Line or Ring of Fire. Those are good ones for me.
Okay.
I
did a jazz routine to walk the line. It was a Johnny
I want to see
Lang
that in the
remake-
next podcast.
Or it was a remake by somebody. I can't think of the name of the guy. I'll have to ask my husband. But yeah, it was a remake. Walk the Line jazz routine. It's great.
Cool. Wait,
All
Casey,
right.
do you answer or do you just ask? I can't imagine you doing karaoke.
Sometimes I answer, but I have never actually. I've done karaoke one time in my life, and that was back during some partying days. So I have a terrible voice, man. So
I believe
karaoke,
that.
and yeah, it isn't my thing. But the one time I did it to boot scoot and boogie. So
Nice.
Yeah. All right.
That'd be interesting. I'd love to see that.
that's a Nashville, Knoxville boy right there. So yeah. All right, next question, guys. If you could time travel, where would you go?
I would go back to cross the Potomac with George Washington.
Wow. Sounds cold.
I think I would go back to I would think I would like to meet Archimedes. I'd go back to that time. Yep. And it'd be
Interesting.
Can I change my answer? I think I'd go back to the dinosaur time, actually. See dinosaurs. That's
You'd
probably
get
a
eaten
rough time
alive,
to live,
literally.
yeah.
I wasn't ready for the rapid fire. I would much rather go see dinosaurs.
I think I would go back to biblical times. I mean, there's so many great stories in the Bible, so I don't know which one I'd choose, but something amazing. Maybe go meet Paul on a ship while he's cruising around the Mediterranean Sea. So yeah, I think that'd be fun. So
Interesting. I guess no one's optimistic about the future, huh? Nobody wanted to go forward. Everybody wants to go backwards. So
Yeah, I thought it was only backwards. I didn't
I didn't think
I
that
guess I
option.
didn't really. I guess I didn't really think about forward.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would want to go forward. There's a little joyful bliss in not knowing what's coming, right?
We could have a
So,
whole
I
time
hate
travel podcast and talk about how time travel works and does it split off different times and create multiverses and all these different things.
That's way too above my intellect to think about that. So this next one though is definitely right what I think about all the time. What's your go-to comfort food?
Ooh, I love my grandmother used to make the best beef stew on the planet with like a roast and potatoes and carrots and the thick, brown gravy. And every time I'm anywhere that there's something similar to that, gosh, I eat like 4 or 5 plateful. So it brings me comfort and also fills me up.
I would have to go with sweets. I feel like my comfort food is generally some type of sweet treat.
Yes,
I thought you were going to go with a nice Italian pasta.
Well, I mean, I do
meatballs.
love there's lots of meals I love that are nostalgic, if you will, is probably a good word. But comfort, like when I'm feeling sad, my comfort food is sweets, unfortunately.
Pretty much my favorite meal is fried fish at Captain D's. Fried fish, hush puppy, and French fries. I mean, with lemon and tartar sauce and mayonnaise and ketchup and a large sweet tea. No one likes it, so I have to go by myself. But there's one near the gym, and I love it. I do it, once a year or a couple times a year. It's pretty amazing.
I remember in high school being broke, and they would sell crumbs. Yeah. Literally, you could go buy crumbs from there.
Yeah. They still have that. Front desk office workers, she would eat that. Her name's Tasha, if you're listening. She would eat that every day. She would go drive through and get the crumbs, and that's what she loved. And would just eat the crumbs.
I have a funny Captain D's story. So we had a Captain D's on Highway 70 in Clayton, where I lived, and my gym was. And we had a small airport in Johnston County that was like not that far from the restaurant. And it was on this major highway, and a plane crashed into the Captain D's one day. And I remember being on the phone. I remember being on the phone with my friend Kim. If you're listening, Kim, she will remember this, so she will crack up. And I was telling her how I was delayed where I was going because I was so inconvenienced by the plane that crashed into the Captain D's. I was so annoyed that I had to go a different way because the plane had crashed into the Captain D's, and she was just appalled that was my thought that it was affecting my travel for the day.
Not if everybody's okay, anybody injured, like this just slowing me down. So
yes, pretty much. I don't have time for this to happen today.
Food would be fried chicken.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I love fried chicken. I think, if I ever have to go to the electric chair for anything and I get my last meal, it's got to have some fried chicken in it. So,
do you like KFC?
Man, I do.
Yeah,
but there's a couple local restaurants around here that do really good fried chicken. I'll tell you, Copeland's, which is a New Orleans chain, but their fried chicken recipe is actually because Copeland's owned Popeyes at one time.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So theirs is really good, and Copeland's obviously does a little bit better job than Popeyes does most of the time. So
we got a place here that's one of my favorite restaurants, Casey. I'll take it. It's called Cajun Yard Dog, and they have the best fried chicken I've ever had in my life.
Yeah,
and it's amazing. All the foods there are amazing, but their fried chicken is some of the best in the world. So
KFC was the only fast food that my parents would let us eat when I was a kid. It's KFC. That was it.
There used to be
we didn't have any other fast food.
Kind of like corner grocery store about a half mile from my house. So like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I would ride my bike there because my mom owned a gym. So, unless I went to my grandmother's house, I never had, any home cooking growing up. My grandmother was close, so we'd go over there all the time, but my mom would be at the gym. So anyway, like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I would scrounge up $6, and you got a 17-piece bucket at the Big Bear corner first. And I would eat all 17 pieces.
Why 17 pieces?
I loved it. I wish I could eat like that still.
17 pieces is such a random number, though. I wonder if they calculated
17, but I still remember for $6, 17 pieces of rice.
18 pieces pushed into their profit margin, and 16 pieces people wouldn't buy it. So I guess 17 was just the right number.
Why it was 17.
It's probably the size of the container fit that amount. And so the container, they got a discount on the containers, and they could figure out, we could fit 17 pieces in here. So
that brought back a great memory of my grandparents, because they lived out in the middle of nowhere in the country. And my grandfather, he didn't farm for money, but he just enjoyed doing it. But no fast food out there. And we would ride into town, and there was a gas station that had a fried chicken place in it. Some of the best fried chicken that I've ever had came from there. Yeah. So, and that was it. That was all that was there. There was no restaurant. There was nothing in that town.
And also, I'll give
and then y'all, do y'all see what I have to put up with every day about keeping these gentlemen on task? We're on question 3.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's one more quick.
I'm not going to lie. I'm going to get fried chicken for lunch today. I don't know where, but I'm going somewhere.
Yeah, so shout out to my mother-in-law, Sherry Smith, Gaga. I mean, if I can ever get y'all, so she grew up in South Georgia, Casey, so Hogansville, so probably similar to what you were used to. It is the absolute best fried chicken. She only does it about once a year, but holy cow,
man,
it is amazing.
I'd like to be invited to Gaga's. Let's go have some Gaga fried chicken. So I love it.
Well, maybe we can cater that for our next meeting in Knoxville.
Yeah, I'll get her on.
I'm not scared. I'll eat that.
Absolutely.
Stacy's meatballs and some fried chicken. That sounds like a great meal.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, we got to get through these questions.
There's more? Goodness gracious.
Yeah. I mean, been talking about fried chicken for.
Well, we're not supposed to talk about each question for 10 minutes.
Oh, that's rapid fire.
Well, this next one's going to be even longer. Do you believe in true love?
Yes, I do. So I absolutely do.
Yes, I do.
For sure. Jen is the best. I don't mind saying it.
All right. I got to add to this question a little bit. So Heather and I debate this. Do you believe that there's like one person on the planet for you? Because like, obviously we're all married. We deeply love our spouses. What if you'd never met them, then do you still find true love?
No, that's tough. The harder question I think is on true love. And the spouse is the easy one, right? But is when people ask you, do you love your children the same? And everyone says yes. And I do. I got 2 boys. I love them both the same. But that's a tougher question. Like, can you love 2 people the same amount? I
have 2 girls that are awesome, and they are amazing. And y'all know my girls, and they are complete opposites in so many ways. And I love them the same, but I try really hard not to piss one of them off. But I love them the same.
Yeah.
My kids would, without a doubt, every single one of them say that I love Emily more than all of them because she was the firstborn. She was a girl. Emily would like wreck her car and we would upgrade it. The other kids wrecked their car and they had to pay for it, And
I think you love them all the same. Well, I mean, I definitely love both my kids the same, but I think you treat them differently because they're different people and they need different things, So I think, I don't know. I think that's where sometimes it can be confusing. Okay. Last question.
What's the most interesting place you've ever visited?
Oh, wow.
I think the Virgin Gorda baths in the Caribbean. Have y'all ever been there?
No.
Wow. That place is freaking like crazy. Like if you feel like, I mean, it's all these caves with the bluest water, clearest, that you could ever, whitest sand that you could ever even think of and imagine in your head. It like literally looks like a postcard, but you get off the boat and you got to swim kind of up the shore, and then you get off and you kind of tour through like all these caves, and there's like looks like a rainbow of colors on the walls. That's just natural rock formation. I don't even know how it happened. It's the only place I've ever been to that's even comparable to that. I've never even heard of anything else like it. So Virgin Baths and Virgin Gorda, which is in the Caribbean, is somewhere closest to St. John's, I think. But yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Which
I would say Croatia, Yugoslavia for me. Yeah, pretty crazy.
Almost went there 2 years ago. Didn't go, but I'll make it there one day.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I'm a huge proponent for things in America. I've been lucky to travel around the world, but this past year we did sunset in Zion National Park in southern Utah and sunrise in Bryce Canyon, and went on a hike. That was one of the most beautiful places in the world with the sand sculptures and the hoodoo, sand, how the sun hits it at sunrise. I mean, it was one of the most amazing places ever. And so, but I'm a proponent. If you haven't done Grand Canyon and Mount Rushmore and Glacier National Park and Denali in Alaska and those places, go see America first before you travel elsewhere. So
yeah, Kevin, I'm jealous of those pictures. I saw your pictures when you were there.
It's amazing.
I would love to be.
Mine is similar to Kevin, but mine is Yellowstone. I literally feel like you're on a different planet because of the acid pools and the geysers. And I mean, it's just, you're surrounded by beautiful mountains, but then all of these interesting things of, hey, this looks like a regular pool of water, but if you get in it, it will instantly boil you. Emily and I actually shared a book. 50 deaths in Yellowstone or something like that. But I mean, just so many stories of, you know, this guy's dog jumped in one of those acid pools and he jumped in to save it. Wow. And obviously neither one of them, but it's just such an interesting place. Like I said, I felt like I was on a different planet. So
yeah, it is. It's pretty amazing. So, and that's in my home state, beautiful state of Wyoming.
Very cool.
Well, Stace, I learned something. Next time when the four of us are here, we got to rename this not rapid fire questions, but
not rapid fire questions. And we probably
questions.
And we probably need to limit it to 3
one.
Because one question. Hey, I like that better. One question.
It's all good.
Good to know.
Hey, we got a question from one of our listeners. So. So here's another question, guys. All right. Okay. So this is from Alicia from Nevada. As entrepreneurs in the youth sports space, how do you know when a mistake is just part of the learning curve versus a sign you need to completely change direction? Oh, man, I've thought a couple of times I needed to change direction.
Yeah, I think, it's kind of the old saying is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is definitely of insanity. So I would say is that when it's reoccurring and happening over and over again, you don't want to have a knee-jerk reaction and change every time something goes wrong. But if it's the same issue, then pull the trigger on it. Back to it's easy to compare to employees. Is when you've got a bad employee. Stacy said this earlier, you don't realize how much that's really hurting you. I'll never let somebody go. Well, never's a long time. Maybe there's a couple times I've thought twice about it. But most of the time when you go ahead and pull the trigger, you're like, gosh, why did I wait so long to do that? You can point back to
for sure 15,
20 different times that you should have let that person go and you just, hang on to them too long. So I would say if it's occurring and it's happening and it's negative, then, that's the sign.
I think one of the things too, Casey, when you were reading that, I was honestly feeling very thankful for the three of y'all. And the friendship that we've grown over these past several years, and we talk, the four of us talk multiple times a week. We're doing Zoom calls, we're doing conversations, but I'm thinking back between the 25 gyms that we own between the four of us. Granted, I only have one, but the things that we've learned and the ideas that we've bounced off each other, this community that we've built, my gym and my business life and the things that we do is so much better because of, having conversations with y'all. I think of all the different things I've added, changed, grown, done, good and bad. And it's because I have a sounding board of y'all and your staff. I've talked to all your staff about different things all the time. And so I feel very lucky. How many gym owners are on an island and it's just a bummer. It's just find your people, get involved with MotUS and help yourself.
The coolest thing about what we do, it is the youth, the term that Alicia, youth sports space, but that is the thing. We get to work with the youth, and we get to grow that. We get to impact them. That's the future of our country. So it is a great, great thing that we get to do. For me, the things that, that I've had to question and change direction, when I get outside of the scope of business that I'm good at, and I use this example all the time, Chick-fil-A, they make chicken. They don't make hamburgers. They have added to the menu a little bit, but they really honed in on chicken before they did anything else, And some of the mistakes I've made along the way are man, we've got this gym. Let's do tanning beds, or let's do this thing, and not that those things can't work, but many of them I quickly found out of I probably need to change direction on that because
just stick with chicken.
We are so much better. We're so much better at these other things. Let's focus on them and let's do what we do well and capitalize on that before we move on to something else.
For sure.
I would say to Alicia that I feel like every mistake is an opportunity for learning. So it's all part of learning. It's all part of learning. So if you're making mistakes and you're learning from them, then that's part of the process. And I think that that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can weather the storm of those mistakes, but then obviously we don't know Alicia's situation, but my reality is if it's costing me my family, like I can't feed my kids, I can't pay my bills, I can't take care of my family, I can't support my loved ones, or I can never spend time with them, then it may be time to move on.
Right.
Cool. All right.
I like it. Well, thanks, Alicia, for the question.
Yeah. And then from another MotUS Edge listener, we've got a statement here. After listening to the MotUS Edge episode about running your gym like a business instead of surviving week to week, I realized I was the system. If I wasn't there, then nothing moved. Oh my goodness, this speaks to me. Like that was me for a long time. We took one big takeaway from the episode, documented our processes, front desk communication, new athlete onboarding, staff expectations. Nothing fancy, just clear documentation. Within 2 months, I wasn't fielding constant text. Enrollment felt organized, and my staff handled the problems without escalating everything to me. For the first time in years, I left the gym at 6 o'clock, and I didn't feel guilty about it. That episode didn't just grow our business, it gave me breathing room, and that is from a gym owner. So,
that's
and
awesome.
A MotUS Edge listener. So, man, I wish I could have listened to this podcast and gotten that advice 25 years ago. I'm not sure I would have listened to it. Who knows? But, it took me a long time to be able to delegate and actually let people do their job. I was like, I've always thought like, well, I'm not a micromanager, but I was, because I had to be involved in every little aspect. And then I would get angry because I was involved in every little aspect. But that was was a me problem. So.
For sure. For years, I feel like I didn't even take a vacation because I felt like I couldn't be away. So I get it.
Same.
So we have a great review to share from Lauren S. She's a gym owner from Florida. I've listened to a lot of business podcasts over the years, but the MotUS Edge podcast hits different because it's specific to our world. Cheer gyms and dance studios have their own challenges, and this podcast actually speaks to them. The leadership advice is solid. The conversations feel real, and I've walked away from multiple episodes with ideas I've implemented the very next week. It's become one of my go-to resources. So that's pretty awesome. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
That is awesome. I hope that she learned a lot about fried chicken today.
Yeah.
So.
There you go.
I know we need to wrap up so I can go get some lunch.
Yeah. So, Casey and Cole, how do you feel being back on the podcast today?
Good.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's good. I feel a little bit out of practice, but
you mean Kevin and Cole? Casey's on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, I did mean Kevin and Cole. My goodness.
Gosh, don't mix me up with that guy.
Sorry, my bad. Whoops.
It was great. I still love it. It's still awkward for me even after we're in year 2 of doing it. So, but maybe it's the headphones. Cole, you had went away from the big headphones.
I gave up on it. I tried it. I was traveling somewhere, and I did it from my hotel room, just on my computer. And Stacy told me it was okay, so it's just easy to do with that.
I said
just
it was okay
realized
that one time, Cole.
Okay in a pinch.
Yeah.
Casey, these mountains are the Grand Tetons on the other side of Yellowstone. This is outside of Jackson, Wyoming. So, by the way.
If you've never done a snowmobile tour in Yellowstone, that's amazing. That's a must do.
Yeah. I agree.
All right. Well, with that, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the MotUS Edge and check out our video shorts. Like and comment. We love to hear from you. Give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Join MotUS, or check us out on TikTok. And we've added LinkedIn at the MotUS Edge. Follow our show wherever you listen to our podcast. If you like what we're doing and you want to hear more, leave us a comment and tell all of your friends. And guess what? Our new website at the MotUS Edge is live now, so be sure to go check that out. And if you're a gym owner, join the movement and sign up for MotUS today. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're excited for you to have the MotUS Edge.
Thank you for listening to the MotUS Edge. We hope you had a blast. Join us next week for more on business, leadership, and motivation. Subscribe and follow the show where you get your podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter at joinmotus.com. The MotUS Edge Podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.